Hey everybody, I wanted to give an update on how I ended up framing out this window. Now there were a couple things about this that were a little bit more unusual, a little bit more difficult, and I wanted to talk about those first. So the first thing is that the window itself, it has the screen and the shade, which click together and is really nice, but those roll into these two pieces, this white piece up here and this white piece down here. And that shade is actually mounted onto the window frame, so the actual window out here. And it's mounted on with two screws on the top and two screws on the bottom. So when I actually framed out, what I had to make sure is that I have clearance so that I can open these and get to the screws that are here, here, down here, and down here, so that I can actually remove the whole shade and get to the window if there was a problem, a leak or something like that, if I needed to fix it. So when I put this in, I had to make sure that I had clearance for this to actually open up enough to be able to get to these screws. So that was one consideration. The second consideration is that the wall is actually curved from top to bottom, like most everything in this van. So the distance from the trim or the framing to this is shorter up here than it is down here. So what that ended up doing was creating a gap especially down on the bottom. It was really noticeable. It's about a 3-inch piece from this piece of framing to the actual underneath the actual shade. And up here, it's about 2¼ inches from the framing underneath. So what I did is I wanted to actually fill that in with a board and basically trim it out so that you can't see that. Visually, it just didn't look very good to me. So the way that I did that was I used a 1/4-inch piece of wood. Now in my case, I didn't actually have any 1/4-inch. So what I did is I took a 1x6, pine 1x6. I took it to my bandsaw, I ripped it in half to make 2 3/8-inch boards, and then I ran it through my planer to get a 1/4-inch board. Now, if you had 1/4-inch wood, this would just work a lot easier, but that's what I had, and I'm really doing my best to try and reuse materials that I have from other projects, or even just reuse stuff from when my father moved in his house. So I'm really trying to reuse materials as much as possible. So in this case, I used a 1x6 piece of pine, and I got it down to these 1/4-inch pieces. So what I did is I actually installed them, and installed them horizontally, and on the top, it's about 2½ inches deep. On the bottom, it's about 3½ inches deep. And then I actually wood glued and actually nailed those in all the way around. So now what I have is a full unit. This, the framing up here, around, all the way back to the top, and all of the trim that's in it are all nailed together. That's all basically held in place at the moment with only 4 wood screws, 2 up here and 2 down here. Now, obviously, I'll secure that much more when I actually put it back in, but I still need to pull this out so that I can paint it with the mold and mildew resistant paint, but it'll come out as a single unit. So now, after it's painted, I can actually put it back in as a single unit, which will make it a lot easier to install. So that actually completes the framing for this section of the van. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's going to look really good once it's all painted. There aren't any weird gaps. And it also allows me, these flat boards that actually get inserted in, will help contain any insulation that we'll be able to put all the way around the window. So that should help as well. So once I'm done with this, all the painting on this section, the next thing I'll do is I'll move to the back and start framing out for the bunk beds and those back walls. So that's kind of the next step. But that's how I ended up framing this wall. Thanks.